Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Geeking Out podcast. I am the Athletic Geek, and I am here with friend and local artist David Clark coming back for part two. David, I'm glad we're getting to do this again.
Me too. It's been a while.
It has been a while, and there's been a few things happened since the last time we talked. Well, we were kind of talking a little before we started recording, but the first time we did this was pretty well at the height of COVID with no conventions, nothing going on, and
Yes,
unfortunately,
stand still.
unfortunately, things like your art and getting to show off your art really took a back seat, and that's kind of where I'd like to start. Is you know, for you as an artist, how did COVID affect like your ability to be creative? Did you have more time for your art, just not the conventions to show it? What was it? Take me through what it's like for somebody who, you know, I don't want to
Yeah,
say
it's a
depends on the conventions, but
sure.
somebody who uses a convention to get the word out about your art, and that just kind of being put on hold.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. There's so much downtime. You would think I would have drawn a whole lot, but on the other side of that, there was not a lot of motivation going on, so I didn't. But it's like you said, the conventions get you excited and motivated and make you want to have stuff for people to see, and there was nobody to see anything, so just kind of did my other stuff and collecting things and all that. But all in all, I think it actually helped me in the long run because now people are so much more excited to come out and see
Hmm.
everybody. And they're actually searching, local artists out on their own. So I'm getting a ton of business from Facebook and Instagram, everywhere. It's pretty amazing, especially the last couple months, probably. It's really taken off.
Awesome. I do know, as we all probably collectively in the world look at 2020 as the hell year. Um, there were a few times where you did get to go out and do conventions, and one of them was right around the time of our first interview. One of the only local conventions, Cape Comic Con, which, other than just kind of, and it was controversial because a lot of people were thinking, oh, they shouldn't be having any events like this at a time like this. But on the flip side of things, I felt like it was very safe. Um, that meant a lot because you did get to still get a convention in, and you got to meet some pretty cool people to see your art. You want to talk a little bit about that experience at Cape Comic Con 2020?
Yeah, it was actually really cool. I mean, of course, it was terrible having to wear a mask all day, trying to talk to people and engage. But yeah, like you said, there were some super cool people that went on to do some very cool things. Like I got to see Darby Allen, got to meet him and talk to him for a while. I actually drew a picture of him. He signed that for my boys. It's hanging on the wall right in front of me, actually. And then Sammy Guevara, also a super cool guy. I did not have time to draw a picture of him, which would have been great, but you know, then
That's
I
next on
drew
the
a
agenda.
picture. Yes, next on the agenda. And Camille Brickhouse was there across from me, and I got to draw a picture for her. She actually gave me money to do that, and now she's big time star as well. So
What Camille wants you to draw for?
it was her as Wonder Woman and her boyfriend as Superman.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Yes.
I definitely know somebody who's gonna who's gonna appreciate that. But was Cape Con the only convention that you were able to do? I know depending on the area, there were different rules about gatherings, and you can have a gathering, but we got to distance you, or you got to wear your mask, and everybody
Yeah, I
did the right
think,
thing, I guess. But what
yeah,
other conventions did you do?
I think probably the only other thing was at Crash Comics in Paducah, somewhere around that time. Because that's like when I really bonded with those guys was down at that Cape Con. And then they invited me and a couple of friends down to their shop to draw, and that was a giant success down there. That was great. And then after that, it was pretty much nothing for about a year.
That's unfortunate, but we're kind of knock on wood. In the at least good when it comes to conventions now. So
Yes.
you talk about drawing Darby Allen, and one of the well, we met at a comic shop, and one of the things that we ended up, other than the art that we ended up talking about, was pro wrestling, and we didn't really focus on that a whole lot in part one. So, when did you really become interested in pro wrestling just as a fan?
Well, like ever most other people, it was a couple different stages in life. When I was a kid, of course, I was, a huge Macho Man, Hulk Hogan, all those guys when I was, 5, 6, 10 years old around there. And I kind of fell out of it for a while until WCW Nitro started. Then I was all about it for a good while. And then now I'm back in it because my kids love it. So now all of us can watch it and it's even better.
Yeah, that is awesome. So from that, I guess I didn't really notice it the first time I met you because it was at a comic shop for Batman. So, uh, other than the fact that I had a Young Bucks T-shirt on,
Yeah.
we weren't really, most of the art that you had out was definitely comic related, but I've you're just ironic since then. I've noticed when I've seen you at conventions, the wrestling stuff is more out in the open now. Was there ever a? Is this just kind of me making head canon, or were you always drawing wrestling? 'Cause I feel like it was since then. I see more of the wrestling stuff. I see the Derby. I saw that you and your buddy, um, were drawing like the mega powers for your logo.
Yes.
Uh, where the cover photo that we're going to talk about here here shortly. Wrestling seems to be a bigger part of your portfolio now. Was that always the case, or was it just something that kind of happened after? You know,
No, that's right when it started. Like right before that show, I was at work and I did a Macho Man picture and just for fun and like did the whole arts and crafts, put glitter on it and all kinds of good stuff. So that was cool and I kind of, made the connection in the brain that these guys are, superhero-esque. I can draw them just as cool. So ever since then, I've been trying to do what I can, and I plan on doing more. So
awesome. Um, was Darby the first one to see your art? The first wrestler to see your art?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, he was the first one. Like, he was over there doing his thing, and I was had a little bit of downtime, so I had the idea. So I whipped that sketch out real quick and showed it to him, and he was like kind of floored. It was super cool, and he started following me on Instagram, which was
Oh,
pretty
that's awesome.
amazing. Yeah.
Um, cool. So what you're you've obviously gotten back into wrestling. You're enjoying it with your children. What sort of wrestling do you like to watch now? Do you kind of watch all the product, or are you kind of more picky and choosy? Obviously, you're talking about Darby Allin, so I know you watch AEW. But like, what sort of wrestling do you like to watch now?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. AEW, as far as the big guys go, is about it. I'll turn on some WWE every now and again if there's something going on that might be entertaining, which is not a whole lot these days. But the last weekend was good. The WrestleMania weekend was great.
Yeah,
I thought anyway. And um, other than that, a lot of YouTube wrestling, like local guys like Dan the Dad and uh, Effie and all the independent guys. I like to watch a lot of their matches, which
that's
you know how I got into all that. So
right. Yeah. Um. So you basically said like after the Paducah convention, things kind of petered out for a little while. When 2021 we kind of started getting a little bit more back into the swing of things, especially those of us that like going to wrestling events and comic cons and things of that nature. Um, what was your first convention back when we started feeling quote unquote normal again?
Well, I know that there was a couple small ones here and there, but the one that really sticks out was the this past Cape Con. Like they did it up right. It's great. The venue was different, and that was good. Um, Everybody was excited to get out, which was great. There were still masks, but that's okay. By that time, everybody was used to it. So you just kind of learn to recognize people from the nose up. Yeah, that was a pretty huge show for me. You know, that reignited everything, and since then I just hit the ground running.
Awesome. Um, so from there, uh, you got to be part of one of the biggest conventions of the year at C2E2. So I've actually never been to C2E2. I had plans to go right before COVID. And ironically, because I had to skip that, is how I got to meet the very person, went to the independent show to meet the very person everybody's looking at on this cover photo. Um, you know, with that being such a huge convention, we're going to talk more in detail about C2E2, but from your perspective as an artist on Artist Alley, compare kind of the I don't know what the right word is. It would be like the hustle and bustle of trying to get to C2E2 and what it's like setting up for a big convention like C2E2 compared to the scene where I usually get to see you, which is, and these are great conventions. Don't misinterpret my words, anyone. But your Cape Cons, your Paducah, your Berg Comic Con, your smaller events at like the local shops. What's the difference in like prep? What's the difference in you know being there as someone with a table compared to a fan?
Well, actually, at C2E2 was the second Comic Con of all time that I attended as a fan. Like, I actually didn't set up a table there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which hopefully someday that will happen. But there's a lot of stipulations that go along with that are in the application process that, they have like a lot of top-notch talent there in the artist alley. So there's a lot of rings to jump through.
Well,
And
it, okay. You mentioned that. Like, what are the rings you jump, like, compare trying to apply, at least from your perspective, what you've seen for a big convention compared to a small one? Because I had last year I had Ken Murphy, the promoter of Cape Con, on here, and one of the
mhm.
things that always just interests me is someone who goes to conventions is what is it like preparing for one? What is all the and he gave me a lot of perspective on someone who would what it would take to just put on one of which is a great convention, but it's like still in, with all due respect to Ken and Cape, a smaller convention and a smaller part of the world compared to some of these others. So I'm just kind of curious how, what the process is like for you as an artist, just trying to get a table, trying to get booked. What
Oh,
is what is that process like?
yeah, it's a lot of trial and error and really learning to advertise yourself because like you said around here it's all word of mouth, like all of it. So, you really got to, know what you're doing and be polite and a kind person basically and be able to get along with anybody. And those guys will learn about you and if you take a couple minutes to talk to them, they're usually pretty accepting for you to get in, as opposed to a big show like C2E2. They don't really care about that, from what I saw. Like, they are all about, the amount of followers you have and how many published works you have and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like the next level reward for what I'm working toward.
Gotcha. So okay, you mentioned published work and followers and this, that, and the other. Um, did you apply for a table, or did you just kind of just know this from talking to other artists? I went.
No, I, I, I logged on and was going to try, and then read all the requirements, and it's just not time yet.
Gotcha.
You know,
What? If you don't mind me asking, what are some of the requirements? Because that just it's I'm fascinated by this whole world. Like
I,
this whole thing, like it's kind of it's like wrestling in the sense of yes, you can enjoy the show, but then learning how to book the show and learning all these other things just is fascinating to a segment of the audience, and like that's becoming me with conventions and all these different things. It's like I'm fascinated by the process now.
yeah, it's you know, I think the main thing with a big show like that is having published work,
Gotcha.
like because they require an application. So you have to send in your portfolio or whatever you might have, or past things that you've done that they can actually look at in hand, because they're not going to meet you. Like, you can't just go in and talk to them. So you might have the best work in Southern Illinois, and they don't really care unless other people care. You know what I mean? And it's a big machine. It's just all it is.
Um, so unfortunately, you were not there as an artist on Artist Alley, but you were there as a fan. Now I know there's going to be people that listen to this podcast and they're going to be like, "Oh, you just need to come, you just need to come." But what what is it like going to a big convention like that? Like the biggest one I've ever been to is it was Lexington, which I was in awe of the first time I went there. But C2E2, from what I hear, puts Lexington to shame. What was the venue like? What was the weekend like? What was what all did you do at a convention that's so big like that?
Well, I'm going to have some complaints here. I'm not really a complaining kind of guy, but I think that they try to do something like that too soon. Something that scale. Because from what I understand, Lexington was bigger than this past year's C2E2, which is usually double what it was when we were there.
Right.
Um, I mean, the venue is amazing, though. It is just enormous. It's hard to explain. It's probably like, I don't know, 5 or 6 super Walmarts, just this one room. Like, you could have parked a couple airplanes in there, easy.
Nice. But when you mean too soon, was it like a limit on fans, so it felt more empty, or like what was the
I think that the talent
gotcha?
was there. There just wasn't enough people to set up. So from what I understand, usually you have a hard time getting from one side to the other. It takes all day to do stuff, and we did most everything in a day.
Really?
Yeah, so the next day we went, we just sat in on panels, which we did some pretty cool panels, but after that it was just finding some food.
um, it's interesting you say that because whenever I hear about C2E2, I think of I've been to decent sized conventions, but I've never, I keep hearing about your C2E2s, your New York Comic Con, obviously the granddaddy of them all, San Diego, where like their bucket list, holy grail sort of things that all of us in the community want to do. But I hear people that have similar tastes to me and like what they like to do to convention who go to those cons and they're like, bro, you're for what you like to do, you're not gonna like San Diego, or you're not gonna like C2E2. You're not gonna be able to get through that line. You're not gonna be able to see that panel. You are not going to be able to buy the figure you want to buy. It's just not gonna happen. Um,
That's probably true.
so it's interesting to say that there was just that the it wasn't as big this year. But
Yeah. I was able to score some pretty cool stuff while I was there, so that was a good thing.
What'd you get?
What did I get? I got a Mystique statue, which is I've been looking for I don't know 8 years for a decent price. I found that. I found uh, Jim Lee designed Ninja Turtle from the Savage Dragon
Oh
line
wow,
in the '90s. Which
I didn't know that
now,
such thing existed.
oh yeah, I'll send you some pictures, man. I need one more. I'll have three, and they never made Leonardo. So
Gah. Poor Leo always gets kind of he leads, but he always seems to be the one that gets the
yes,
like
definitely.
people just don't seem to like Leonardo as much. It's like, Donatello does the cool machines, so everyone loves Donatello. Michelangelo and Raphael are the ones that everybody kind of connected with, and then poor Leo. I mean, it's not even like he's Cyclops where he's boring because he's the leader. He just
Oh, I
gets
know.
kind of gets kind of gets shit on.
Yep, I do.
Um, But probably the big thing I want to ask you about, and probably what everybody wants to hear about, is you met somebody who I've been told is very nice, very evil. Um, what was your experience like meeting Danhausen and getting to show off your artwork to another wrestler like you were able to with Darby Allen?
It was one of the coolest things I've done as far as celebrities go. Like, the guy couldn't have been any nicer. He was just a normal guy like me and you, which is, I think, is the attraction. Like, he's such a nice guy doing such a silly thing,
Right.
but it's just great, man. Like, it was really off-putting when you walk up to him because he doesn't do the voice when you're
Really?
talking to him. Yeah. So you walk up and he starts talking and you're like, "Oh my gosh, what's happening?" Which is weird that you would expect him to talk in that voice, but I guess that's how convincing his character is.
Yeah, because I think um, my experiences of seeing Danhausen, I always thought I've heard him talk in the voice, so like I never really expected anything different out of him. But wow, like that's a shock. Like I I know we have characters here, but like I still expected a little him to be
Right.
somewhat in character for that interaction. You I see in the picture there, you were able to get it autographed. Now, were you able to get a print or anything to Danhausen? Did he, have you given any of your artwork to any of the wrestlers or people you've drawn?
Danhausen, I did. I actually gave him two copies of the print I did of him, and then I did like a smaller scale Green Goblin for
Gotcha.
him
Oh
because
wow.
he's just like us. He's a big toy nerd, loves comics.
Now, did you know that going in to the convention that Danhausen liked Green Goblin, or did you meet him and he tell you, hey, I like Green Goblin,
No,
let's go?
I knew that. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely I did because that's how I found out about him was his YouTube videos. I had
Okay.
never seen him wrestle before, and then when I found out he was a wrestler, that was even better.
It's funny how you learn about these sort of things.
Yeah, I know.
So that was your experience with Danhausen. Did you get to meet anybody else, or was there anything else that really? Because you mentioned it was kind of uh little more bare bones compared to years before. What else did you guys do that weekend?
Well, to circle back a little bit, when you said standing in line, that's what was going on for CM Punk. Like,
Gotcha,
even though there was hardly anybody there, his line was probably, I don't know, a couple hundred people long at all times. So we got to like just say hey to him because he was sitting next to Danhausen, which,
gotcha,
you know, he was in machine mode also. So, I get it. But then the other cool guy we got to meet was Matt Cardona. Like, he was super nice
Oh,
guy.
sweet. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never met Matt Cardona, so I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
One
You would,
day.
you'd love it, man. He'll just sit and talk to you
Sweet.
forever till, somebody comes up with some money. But yeah,
Yeah,
like he'd have a customer and he'd just start talking to us again. It was really cool.
that's cool. I'm guessing, especially we all like figures, and he's a big figure collector. He has a podcast for figures. I bet you there was a lot of figure talk with Matt Cardona.
There was, yes.
Um,
Yep, lots of wrestling figure talking, which I was just kind of winging it because I don't know a ton about it, and he knows everything
right.
under the sun about it. So it was just cool to say
Yeah.
I did it.
Exactly. So you know, as of this recording, I mean, by the time this goes up, we could all be in hell again. Well, if COVID taught us anything, it's to get to appreciate going to things like comic cons and wrestling shows because you never know when they're going to be taken away. What are your goals as we now kind of come on out the other side of a pandemic? What are your goals as an artist? What are your convention goals?
Well, my number one goal is to do at least one piece of art a week and just kind of set it back for the next convention. That's the biggest, that's the challenge. That's everybody's challenge is having something to present. 'Cause I can have prints all day long, but there's always people that want original artwork, and that only helps myself, to get better, is to just keep drawing and keep drawing and keep drawing. So that's number one on the list is to keep drawing. And then number two would be hopefully get something published.
Um, what are you? And this is something again, completely outsider. Just kind of asking what is that process like of trying to get published? Like it just sounds like it simultaneously from the outside world seems like like simultaneously easy and like extremely difficult.
Yes, that's
What
exactly right. It seems like it would be very easy, but getting the information, I mean, I'm sure somebody can just figure it out, but like I
right,
just, it seems a lot easier to me now that I know people that have had some stuff done. And another big thing is figuring out what you want to do, like what you want to try to get published. And I personally would like to do a couple, independent comic book covers, like smaller title covers, and see if I can make those shine a little bit.
right.
That'd be cool and get my foot in the door and have something to show people.
Um, so would you are you a little bit more interested in trying to do covers as compared to like interior work or like what's kind of your forte, I guess, when it comes to trying to get to published art?
Yeah, ultimately, my favorite thing to do would be design toy packaging. I
Oh,
think that
really?
would be a super fun job because that's what I buy. I buy the stuff with the cool boxes. But or even like skateboard design, I think
Yeah,
that would be pretty cool. And but as far as comics go, cover art for sure. The sequential stuff, maybe if I were able to do this full time in the future, that would be cool. But just thinking about the time that that would take,
right,
you're talking about, 2 weeks probably nonstop drawing to get the interior of one comic book done.
right. Um, it's funny you mentioned that because something I was going to ask you is, you full disclosure, art is not your only job. So
No,
what is it like, trying to find, the time to be creative, with a real job, a family, is it difficult or is it just kind of like is everybody kind of cool like, well, you have x amount of time after work, you can make 30 minutes, you can make an hour. Is it hard or is it, a little bit
it's
easier depending on the situation?
it is very very difficult, very difficult, almost impossible actually. Like with a couple kids and a wife and a dog and a job, and
Right,
it's just you go to work and you come home and you just don't want to do anything on top of the stuff that you already have to do
right.
when you get home, like mow the yard or whatever. But I try to use my lunch breaks as much as possible. that's been helping out tremendously. Like I'll sketch for 20 minutes on my lunch, eat my lunch, and then by the end of the week I usually have a finished piece. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And every once in a while I can escape out to the garage to my studio and do some stuff. Like right now I'm working on a picture for a guy that is the Bryce Dallas Howard character in Jurassic World,
Okay.
but it's 19 by 24 inches. So it's pretty massive. It's like almost poster size. So I can't work on that anywhere except at my desk. So that's taking forever, but I'm slowly chipping away at that one.
um, if there's last question, and you're going to be back. Just we're gonna. There's a lot more to talk about and a lot more that's going to happen. So you're definitely coming back. But last question for
Yes.
this one. Um, you've had three now. Up and coming wrestlers that have uh really became big stars over the last couple of years. Um, see your art, draw them. Who is the if you could once you're done with the art that you got to make now, who's the next wrestler? Or I guess even here, I'll change it. Who's the next wrestler you want to draw? And is there like a younger wrestler that you've seen that you would like to draw and maybe hope that you drawing then helps them become a superstar now, since that seems to be
um,
the theme?
well, I think as far as younger guys go, Hook would be awesome, but he's like a rocket, so he's gonna just
Oh yeah.
automatically be a star. He already is really, but I think it'd be cool to um, the Lucha Bros. Those would
Oh
make a cool
sweet. Yeah, that'd be
picture.
really yeah, especially just their design. That is very
Yeah,
comic book, you know.
definitely. Luchasaurus.
Sweet.
That'd be super cool. And I was actually going to ask you this question: who do you think I should draw next, as far as
Um
wrestling goes?
See, there's so many.
There are.
If I were to Okay, I'm gonna go in a different direction though, because I
Okay.
mean, there's so many ones that I think would look cool if you did them. Yes, the Lucha Bros. Yes, Kenny Omega, or Brian Danielson, or all of that. Like that would all be great, and I know you could do it well. But I'm gonna go in a completely different direction and go with some of the local guys that I've watched and some of the local guys that have been on this show.
Okay.
So if you were to draw anybody, I would want to see Dan the Dad,
Yes.
KLD,
Okay.
Mike Outlaw, and Dexter Roswell.
All
Those are
right,
my
man.
four.
You
And
send me that list, and
I
I'll
will
see
send you
what I
that
can do.
list. And I know two of those four have been guests on this very podcast. So there's a little bias there, but
Yeah,
um
I think Dan the Dad would be an awesome picture to
yeah,
draw.
it'd be fun.
Yes.
And then Dexter Roswell, he wrestles. He's the current Stride champion. Here in Southern Illinois. I think if you can get out to a Stride show, I think you'll like Dexter quite a bit.
Where
Um,
are they at nowadays?
they're everywhere. I mean, they still have their place in Carterville. But, I mean, they do. They
Okay.
go to Marion. They found a good venue in Marion that they ran a few months ago that I think was definitely a good place for them to run shows. Um,
Cool. I'll definitely check that out.
but yeah, those are mine, and I know I don't expect any timetable, but my reasoning is twofold. One, I think you'd make them look cool, and two, hey, if like this is what makes them superstars,
Yeah, that's
let's get
true.
it, let's get it.
Yeah.
um, but David, I thank you so much for doing this. We've got there's so much stuff I want to do for you, do with you on this podcast, but it's damn adult life and
Oh yeah.
damn real world. But uh, real quick, have social media for anybody who comes across this to check out your art.
Yes, actually, Facebook and Instagram, mostly Instagram. It is Red Banana Art by David Clark, the only one you're going to find.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Definitely give him a follow on Instagram. Check out his art, and drop him a line for a commission because that's always good for an artist to get a commission. And follow me on my social media pages: facebook.com/athleticgeek89, Twitter athletic_geek89, Instagram athleticgeek89. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more content from all around the geek world with comic books, gaming, anime, and of course pro wrestling. We'll see you next time.
Bye.